I'm gonna, we're, there you go.
Very good to go. Okay, hello everyone, and so good to see you all. I'm going to get right into this, and this is going to be a very interactive session in the sense that I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to ask you to share some of your insights and some of your answers with me in the chat. I'm maybe going to ask you to leave your questions towards the end, and we'll do a quick Q&A session towards the end because I've got lots of information to share with you today. I really decided that in this session, I'm going to go wide and give you lots of tools and lots of insights and share with you the tools that I use with my clients. And then if you want more information, we can absolutely go deep into the Q&A. We can start to drill a little bit down into those. And of course, if you want more, I can offer some workshops or coaching or whatever it is that you need from there. But I really want to give you this range of tools that you can then latch onto. And because, all of these audiences nowadays are very diverse, what's going to be important for you may not be important for someone else. So I want you to really think about what you are going to get out of this session, what you're specifically here for. So that's the first question I'd like you to share with me in the chat is, what are you going to get out of this session? What is the self-innovation that you're looking for? What is the area of self-innovation that you want for yourself? And what are you going to get out of this session? I know you don't know what I'm going to share with you, but I want you to really direct your attention into the area of self-innovation that you specifically would like. So share with me that in the chat. And while we're getting your answers, I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to share the formula that makes it really easy to isolate problems and the areas that you need for self-innovation. It really just isolates what's happening for you, not what's happening in the external world. And I think a lot of attention is always on the external world and what's happening out there, but I want to really focus in on what's happening for you. How do we understand what's really happening in your internal experience? And then I'm going to share, like I said, I'm going to go wide and I'm going to share tools in each of those four categories. And then we're going to be able to go deep in the questions. And I want you to latch onto an insight or a tool that's really going to work for you. And I want you to think of, when you're going through this session, find that one thing, and I really want you to take action from that after this session. So I'm giving you my objective, and I want that to be your objective too, is to really focus in on what you are going to get out of this. What is the self-innovation you want? And then looking for that one insight on one tool that's really going to switch something for you or make you think differently and actually apply that moving forward. So Ali says, always looking for new tips and tricks that I can share across the organization. Great. So that's about sharing. And then Lindsay says, learn something I didn't know I needed to know. Great. So you're open to the knowledge and the information that I'll be sharing today. All right. So the formula that I'm going to share with you is essentially your data. Now, very often when we think of data, we think of all of the actions that people take and, the data that's surrounding our Google habits or our transaction habits and those kinds of things. I know that you work in the innovation space, so you know a lot about data. But when I talk about an individual's data, I'm talking about more than just their actions or their outcomes. I'm talking about what's actually inside. What is their internal experience? So I've created this formula, which is based on neuroscience, based on behavioral psychology. And I've really just taken those frameworks that they use that are quite theoretical and quite technical, and I've made it really simple for my clients to understand, but also I'm going to share it with you so that you can use it too. So it is called, I actually missed a step because this formula, so wait, you're going to have to wait in anticipation now for what that formula is. But essentially, the reason why we want to be able to understand our internal experience is because we want to optimize our brain. We want to optimize the thing, our brain. It's the one thing that is our most important asset. And we forget about it. We forget about optimizing our internal experience, our brain. We often think that our brain just delivers us thoughts and just delivers us automatic responses and reactions to things. And we forget that we actually can control a lot more of what's happening inside our mind. And when we start to do that in this knowledge economy, we have way more power because knowledge is now commoditized. We don't need to use our brain for knowledge. We actually need to use our brain to use it optimally and to optimize it in a much better way, to be more in control of it, which is called metacognition. It's that skill of metacognition. And when we're able to do that, we actually achieve more happiness, more success. And I say your version of success because everybody's version of success is different, especially when you're focused on your brain and what you want, as opposed to what other people's brains are telling you that you should want. And when we start to optimize our brain, we can actually really achieve a more positive impact in the world. When we're feeling good, actually that starts to it's a contagious feeling, right? It starts to show and move across our organizations and into the world around us. Rachel says she wants a kick of motivation, struggling in a large corporate company on how innovation can improve all aspects of the business. For sure, innovation is just everything, right? I often say, if you want things to stay the same, things will have to change because that's what happens. Change is the only constant. Okay, so this is the formula that I want to share with you. And I've gone ahead. That's interesting. Oh, you see, I've skipped one. These flip charts often work really well until they don't. Okay, so the raft formula, I was correct. I was going to share that with you up front, is essentially results, actions, feelings, and thoughts. So people often remember this and they think, oh, it's my life raft. And it's a great way to remember it. So if you were to look at everything in the whole world, you could actually categorize it as in one of these 4 things. And if you look at every problem that we have in this whole world, it's probably one of these 4 things. It's either a result, an outcome, and a thing that's happened, something that we actually can't control because it's already done, or it's something that we want to have happen, or it's an action, a habit, a behavior, something that we're doing or something that we're not doing that we want to be doing, or it's a feeling, those things that a lot of us avoid. It's one of those. It's either a feeling that we want more of or a feeling that we want less of, we want to avoid, or it's a thought, a belief, self-image, something that we're thinking. Anything can be categorized into one of these 4 things. And the great thing about this is that we know that actions create our results, right? So we know this. We know actions create our results. And our feelings drive our actions. So when we feel motivated, like Rachel wants to feel motivated, when we feel motivated, we take specific action. When we feel demotivated, we take very different action or inaction, right? So our feelings always drive what we do, and our thoughts always drive our feelings. What we're thinking is what's driving our feelings. We think that it's the traffic or it's the weather that's making us feel a certain way, but actually it's what we think about that traffic or what we think about the weather that's making us feel a certain way. And one of the things that I find is that in organizations, we focus a lot on that. That's our strategy and our objectives and goals. And we forget about this, the most important part, especially when we're thinking about our clients. And to be fair, I actually think a lot of the time in innovation, we do think about this for our customers, but we forget about this for ourselves and for our people around us. So we really want to be able to isolate this and to focus on this. And the reason why we're not focusing on it is it's because it's intangible. But this formula helps you to make it more tangible, to make it more tangible in your mind, to go, okay, what am I thinking right now that's making me feel this way? What am I feeling that's making me take this action? And when I take this action, what is the result that I'm creating? The other thing to remember about this, our thoughts, is that if we think something over and over again, it actually becomes a belief. And then if we keep thinking that belief over and over again, it becomes a part of our identity, our self-image, our personality. And we think that it's not changeable. Like, this is just who we are. But I want to share with you that it is possible to change this. And I'll share with you why a little bit later. So I want you to share with me where you think innovation comes from. Just share with me in the chat. Where do you think innovation comes from? And what I was going to share with you is that it comes from the brain. It comes from what we're thinking, right? We create innovation with our mind. That's exactly where it comes from. So if you want to self-innovate, or if you want to innovate in your organization, you really just have to be focused on optimizing your mind and your brain and your thoughts. We want to really focus down on the cause of the results that we want to create. And it's the thinking, our brain, that's going to be doing that. So the other thing that I want to share with you about the brain is that we teach it to control everything around it. So we use patterns to react to the situation around us, but we rarely teach it to control itself. And I'm going to share some tools with you that will allow you to do that, because those who master their brains can create all of this for themselves. Because if you think about it, your internal experience is your experience of the whole world. What you're thinking and feeling right now is the truth for you. That's all it is, right? Your internal experience. And we need to be optimizing our internal experience more, because we have more control of it than our external experience. We can't control the traffic or the weather or the government or, you know, the euros or any of those things. Alrighty. So the RAFT formula was created, RAFT, so that you can remember it. It's an acronym to remember, but actually when we use it to diagnose problems and challenges, we want to flip it. And when I was creating this acronym, TFAR just wasn't going to cut it. I don't think people would remember that one. So I had to flip it around, and I was like, oh, okay, hang on. RAFT, life raft, great, easy to remember. But when we're diagnosing this, what we really want to be able to do is to flip it. So because we know that everything comes from our thoughts drive our feelings drive our actions, and our actions drive our results. And then we have these things which are triggers, right? There are things in the environment that will drive our thoughts. And now we can't control our triggers. So this is what I want to share with you. We cannot control those external triggers. They're going to happen. The weather, other people, etc., will be different. Uncertainty, right? The things that happen in the world. We cannot control that. We also, to a certain extent, we can control our results, but we can only control them through what we can control. And that's these three things. So we're really going to focus a lot of attention on just optimizing these three things: our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. And I'm going to share some tools with you on how you can use those to optimize and to self-innovate. Just those three things. That's all you need to focus on. If you just focus on those three things, you will be happier, you will have more success, and you will have more impact. So let's get into it. Our thoughts are optional. We think that the thoughts that pop into our mind are the truth. Now, when I heard this a few years ago, and it was before I became a coach, and it was actually the reason I became a coach, I was in a pool of depression, and I was just feeling really down, really, really down. And my coach said to me, you know that thought? Because I kept saying to myself, I'm just not good enough. I'm not good enough. And she said, you know that thought that you keep telling yourself? It's optional. You get to choose if you want to think that or not. And my mind was blown. Nobody had ever told me that before. Thoughts are optional. So whatever it is that you're thinking, guess what? You can change that because it's optional. You get to decide whether you want to think that or not. And you get to decide if a thought is actually helping you get the results that you want or not. Because remember, our thoughts will drive how we feel. How we feel will drive our actions, and our actions will drive our results. So you can go back and say, this thought that I'm thinking, How does it make me feel? What does it make me do from that feeling? And then what is the result that's created? So to change ourselves and to self-innovate, we have to be focusing on our thoughts. The other thing that's come up recently is that there's a new intelligence that people are measuring and really focusing their attention on in organizations. And that is not IQ or EQ. It's actually something called AQ, which is adaptability, the adaptability quotient. And how we measure that is just by saying, how do you currently deal with challenges? How do you currently deal with change? How do you deal with people disagreeing with you? How do you deal with missed expectations? How do you deal with discomfort? And the way that you answer that is going to show you how adaptable you are. But there's another way, a very simple way, and that people measure this, and it's about saying, can you hold two opposing beliefs in your mind? Two opposing things. So can you think that this project is not good enough and this project is actually already good enough? Can you, I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but can you hold those two beliefs in your mind and think that they could both be true? Because if we were to look at it, we would be able to find evidence. Like if you're working on a current project and you would say, it's not good enough because of X, Y, and Z. But you can also answer the question and say, it is good enough because X, Y, and Z. And when you start to see that the two things could be true, you start to realize that there's so much more available to you, so much more adaptability. And it's the same with me thinking, I'm not good enough. As soon as my coach said to me, actually, how are you good enough? I was able to list off the things and then realize, okay, there are some areas where I don't think I'm good enough yet, but there is lots that I am good enough in. So we really need to realize that our thoughts are optional. And when we start to look at them and optimize them, we can get a lot more insight into what's happening for us. We have to be ready to unlearn. I know we are focused on learning, but actually sometimes what we need to be doing is unlearning all of the social conditioning that we've had over the years, all of the beliefs, the stuff that we've been telling ourselves, like, we have to have a 5-day work week and work from 8 to 5. Actually, that's just a belief. That's a thought. It's optional. We've got to be ready to unlearn some of these things. And I'm not saying that that is the case, but we need to start questioning these thoughts and these things that people have told us are true. Actually, they're optional. And can we think of them in a different way? So one of the tips that I want to give you is called Nixon. We're so busy doing. We do all of the time. And what I want you to do more of is nothing. Actually, Nixon. Nixon is a Dutch word that means just doing nothing. And the reason why I say that is because when we do nothing, we allow the most creative part of our brain to light up. Has anybody ever had that experience where you're just about to fall asleep and you get the most amazing idea? Or you're in the shower, or you're going for a walk, or you're on holiday and you're lying on the lounge and you're like, oh my gosh, I should have done that at work. Oh my goodness, this is what I should have done. The reason is because you're doing nothing. You're not doing stuff. We do stuff all the time. We do so much stuff and we busy ourselves with stuff. And even when we're finished doing our work, we pick up our phone so we can do more doing. Or we go and do the laundry, or we go and clean. Or I mean, that's me. But one of the things we need to do more of is nothing, so that we can optimize our brain and use it for more of that creative thinking. Newton actually did this, where he would sit in a chair and he would hold a bowl in his hand, like a bowl in his hand, and he would just lie there with a bowl in each hand, and he would like just drift off to sleep. But he would actually go into that like state of nothingness, complete relaxation, with a problem in his mind, and he would just have that problem, like, I've got this problem to solve. And as he was drifting off asleep, he would wake himself up and suddenly he would have the insight. He would be like, oh, that's the solution. That's what I'm going to try next. Even Quentin Tarantino used to come up with his movie ideas by floating in his pool, floating in his swim. He came up with the idea for Pulp Fiction and some of those other scary, crazy, he's got crazy ideas, right? Really, really out there. He came up with those ideas while he was floating in this pool. So we need to do more nothing so we can think more instead of doing more. So here are some questions. I do that with where are my keys? Ali says, amazing. Yeah, that's really helpful. Like just get your mind out to something else, and then suddenly you'll figure out where the last place you put your keys. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm actually going to share them with you in the group chat so that you can do these later, but I will also share a worksheet with you later on. I'll tell you about that later on. So I want you to do this work on yourself. What are the thoughts, beliefs, and identities that you currently hold about yourself? And what are the identities and beliefs you want to have about yourself? And then also use these questions, right? Yes, and what else can be true here? When you're working through problems or issues or for yourself, yes, and what else can be true here? What's the other opposing thought? Even what is the opposite, and how could the opposite be true here? What is more true here? Those questions will really help you to have that, to really optimize your thinking when you're self-innovating, but even when you're using this at work. Be very careful with the words you use and the meaning of those words, because I work with a lot of people and they're saying to me, I want to be someone who makes a lot of money. And I say, yes, okay, tell me what that means. And actually what they mean is that they want to be someone who has a lot of money and not necessarily who's someone who makes a lot of money. So be very careful with your words that you use and the meaning that you have there. All right, there's still more. But wait, there's more. We've got lots to get to. Okay, we're going to talk about feelings, and mostly everybody runs away now. So please don't exit off of this. I'm going to tell you feelings are actually something amazing, and we don't need to avoid them. We actually need to embrace them way more, because everything we want in this whole world, anything we want, any outcome, any results, any holiday, anything we want in this whole world is a feeling. What we want is a feeling. You want to go on vacation? Well, why do you want to go on vacation? Everybody says to me, so I can feel relaxed. I just want to relax. I don't want to feel stressed. That's a feeling. Those are feelings that they don't want to feel. What they want to avoid is the stress. What they want to feel is more relaxed. Everything that even the most important things in life are the things we cannot measure, and they're all feelings. We can only measure them by you. You can measure your feelings, right? So it's your internal experience that you have to be optimizing for. What do you want? What is the feeling you want to feel? And what are the feelings you are avoiding? What do you not want to feel? The other thing that and because everything that we avoid is also a feeling, right? So if you're procrastinating, it's because you're avoiding the discomfort of the potential failure, perhaps, or the discomfort of doing the really boring task, right? So boring is also a feeling. That's all we're avoiding, is the feeling. When you know this, you're like, I'm onto your brain. I'm just avoiding a feeling here. And guess what? I can feel any feeling. This is the biggest thing that I want the world to know, is that the worst thing, I'm going to jump ahead, the worst thing that we can ever experience is actually just a feeling, and you can handle any feeling. Did you know that? You can handle any feeling, and the worst thing that can ever happen to you is just a feeling. So if you go on stage and you make a mistake, the worst thing that can happen is just the shame of making that mistake, the shame of thinking, oh my gosh, they're all thinking that I'm terrible. It's the shame, it's the feeling, which is just a chemical that flows through your body. And that's the thing that makes us stop and avoid doing the hard things. That's it. It's just a feeling. And guess what? You can handle any feeling. And I know this because you've already handled every single feeling. You've been there, you've felt them all. You can handle them all. So be onto your brain when you stop yourself from doing something hard, because the worst thing that can happen is a feeling, and you can handle any feeling. The number one feeling for innovation, people think certainty is a thing, right? Certainty is the number one feeling for innovation. And guess what? Certainty is a feeling. You can generate it. You can generate certainty. And how do you do that? By thinking, what am I certain of now in this current frame of reference? What is certain for me now? What is the information that I currently have? What do I know now? And I know how I'm going to, who I want to be in uncertain situations. We all know that, right? Because we can't, I mean, like, we cannot even imagine the stuff that's going to happen to us in the future. We never imagined what was going to happen before COVID. We're never going to imagine, all that stuff is uncertain, right? But it's also uncertain if we think about it and we're like, oh, I'm so uncertain, I don't know. Uncertainty is a feeling. You can handle that one. But you can also generate certainty for yourself just by thinking, what do I know here? What am I certain of here? What we want to be able to create is anti-fragility. Now, there's a great book by Nicholas Tassim. I always get his name wrong. By Nicholas, and it's called Anti-Fragility. Even if you just buy the book and stick it on your shelf and you never read it, it's a tough read. He's a mathematician. He's brilliant. Even if you just put it on your shelf, I want you to remember this. This is the goal. This is the goal. Not resilience. We don't want to be resilient. Resilient just means that we can cope with hard stuff. What we want to be able to do is anti-fragility, which means thrive through hard stuff, the hard uncertainty things. We want to be able to use it and leverage it. There was a really great story about Michael Caine. In 2002, he did an interview with someone, and someone was saying, you know, how did you deal with all of the tough challenges in your life? And he said he relayed a story back in the day when he was first starting out, and he was on stage and he was rehearsing for a play, and there was a chair in his way. And he like looked to the director and said, what do I do? This chair is not supposed to be here. And the director said, use it. He said, use the chair. I think he said, use the effing chair, but use the chair. And he, excuse my language, or lack thereof, but basically what he was saying is, if you're in a comedy, fall over it, right? And make it funny. If it's a drama, pick the chair up and smash it. But use the difficulty, use the chair. And that's exactly what anti-fragility is about, is use the challenge that's in front of you for you, right? Okay. Like I said, we're going wide. And if you want to go deep, make sure that you're writing down your notes on what you want to I've forgotten to give you my questions. Feeling questions are in the chats. What do you want to feel when you think of being those identities, right? So we really want to go into, who do we want to become? What are the identities that we want to become? And what do we want to feel when we're self-innovating, when we're going to that place, that identity of who we want to become? And also, what do you need to be willing to feel to take that action towards those identities? Because you're going to need to be willing to feel shame, awkwardness, boredom, discomfort, fear. You need to be willing to feel that, right? Discipline could be something that you feel, or determination. You need to be willing to feel those hard, uncomfortable emotions too. All right, so the next piece is actions. When we've optimized, I really want you to focus on optimizing your thoughts and feelings first. Really work on that first. But when we've done that, we need to take action for sure. We can't just be, waking up and reading out beautiful words and getting inspired by quotes and things like that and having the mindset. We actually have to use that to take action. So feel X, feel the feeling, and do it anyway. Sometimes we're going to wake up and we're not going to feel good. We're not going to feel like it. We're not going to feel like saying no to someone or raising our hand for the promotion, we're not going to feel like doing the thing or putting that presentation together or doing the webinar or doing the Ideas UK accreditation, because it is going to be hard and it's going to be tough and it's going to take some time. We're not going to feel like it, but feel it, because you can feel any emotion, you can handle any emotion, and then do it anyway. It's not just, there was a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I say feel any emotion and do it anyway. Feel the awkwardness, feel the shame, feel anything, because you can, and still do it. Take action towards your goals, knowing that the worst thing that can happen to you is a feeling, and you can handle any feeling. And suddenly you're more braver and courageous. The other thing that I want to share with you here is called radical flexibility. This is a technique that I use because I know that one of the emotions that most people feel is frustration. In the workplace, frustration. Everybody says, I'm so frustrated with this person, or because this has changed. And I want to give you this radical flexibility, which means anything can change at any time, and you're okay with it. That's it. Anything can change at any time. You're okay with it. People can cut you off. People can change the deadline. People can cancel your meeting, change the meeting. You are okay with it, because the only thing that happens is that when stuff happens, things change, you feel frustrated, and then you spend a lot of time spinning in that frustration, and you feel stressed about it, and it just makes your internal experience way worse. Nobody else is having an impact. There's nothing happening to them. They're okay because they've changed stuff. You feel awful. Why? Don't do that. Radical flexibility. So I always say to my clients, you can change your appointments at any time. I'm radically flexible for you. I rarely get frustrated, and I can deal with high pressure and lots of change. It's okay, because the worst thing that can happen is the feeling, and it's okay. And I'm also in control of the frustration, which I don't want to feel. And it's all okay. For the things, I'll answer that question in a second. For the things that are non-negotiables, right? For you, that you cannot be flexible on and that you aren't willing to be flexible on, you create boundaries or consequences, right? There are non-negotiables. If there are people in your team that are not doing things that you want them to do, you create boundaries, you create consequences. You are always in control. And I'm going to ask Zena to share. I've got a webinar that I've already done on YouTube that you can watch on boundaries and how to set those boundaries, consequences, etc., and where to set those. So I'm going to now share. We're swiftly running out of time. Sorry, my eyes are not good. Frustration is the result of anxiety. Yes, I'm going to talk about that at the end of the Q&A. So I won't lose that. And then I'm going to share with you the questions. Oh, one more thing. Everything is an experiment. If we're looking at everything as an experiment, this is the way I like to see it, right? Is that when I'm doing something, I want to make a top quality, amazing experience. But afterwards, I always look back at it as if it was an experiment. And I'm like, oh, that was cool. That didn't go quite as well as I'd planned. It's almost like I'm a mad scientist. I am slightly mad, but I am a mad scientist where everything is an experiment, and then I get to learn from it and improve on it, because that's the goal, is just progress. We're not going for perfection. We never get there. I believe that our purpose in life is to become more of who we really are. And we do that by doing hard things and creating impact and optimizing our internal experience. But we're never done. We're never done. We're always making progress towards that. Okay, so here are your action questions that are going to be helpful for you to do some self-reflection. What do you need to stop doing to achieve the identity that you want? What do you need to start doing to achieve the identity that you want? And also, what is the next value-creating task you can do towards your new identity? You want to really look at what do you need to stop and start doing. And also, on an ongoing basis, when you're experimenting and taking action, what is the next value creating task towards this new identity of who you want to become? All right, I think we are running swiftly out of time. I'm going to, oops, that's the last one. I'm going to just race through this last slide. And then I'm going to open up for some questions. So one of the things that I think is that SMART goals. So we want to look at, when we're creating our goals, everybody looks at SMART goals. And I think they're outdated because they were actually created in 1981, which is the same year that they made leg warmers and Donkey Kong, which is totally out of date, right? So I think SMART goals are out of date, but here are the ones that I think we need to start creating, right? And I call them habit goals. Easy enough to remember, right? But you might think of habits, but what that stands for is holistic. It needs to be holistic. It's not just an outcome-based goal. It's what do you want to feel and what do you want to believe? And what is the outcome that you're going to create from that? What do you want to be doing as you create this goal? What is the journey you want to create for yourself? What are the terms? So people say, I want to make lots and lots of money, but they forget, if it's a holistic goal, they forget to say, I want to make lots and lots of money while only working 8-hour days and being able to spend the weekends with my family. That's a holistic goal. That's something that's all encompassing, not just the outcome that you're looking for. So really think about holistic goals. Make sure it's action oriented. What are the actions that you're going to take? We have to always be taking action. And here I want you to really think about optimizing for consistency. What is the action that you can take on a consistent basis, not just a one and done basis? Because especially when you're looking at big goals. SMART goals are always realistic, and I think realistic goals are boring. I think we need to be bold with goals. We need to say, and the reason why I think goals are realistic is because we want to think that we can achieve them, but we forget that goals are not there to necessarily be achieved. They're actually there as a filter of what we want more of now. So go big, and then it will start to help you filter what you need to do now differently. It's way more easier to make a big goal and then filter down. I can talk more on that if you want more. Identity-led, as I've touched on very briefly, is really look at what is the thoughts and the identities of who you want to become in order to create the results. And make sure that your goal is identity-led. It's led from the identity of who you want to become. And then make it trackable. We all think it needs to be measurable, but I think measuring something 5 months or 3 months or even 6 months from now is too late. We need to track it on a daily basis. Track how you're doing towards your goal now and track your internal experience of that goal now. All right, so I have gone incredibly wide. I've shared with you some key tools on how to optimize your results, how to optimize your actions, but more importantly, and this is probably where you may never have encountered some of these things before, but to optimize your internal experience, which is your feelings and your thoughts, and how to do that for your beliefs and the identities that you create, the self-image that you create for yourself. If you would like these notes, please, you can either send me your email address in the chat, or you can email me and just say, please send me this worksheet. The worksheet will be available for you at the end of this week. My design team is a little bit slow this week, but I think they've been on holiday and that's why. So just email me and I'll send this worksheet through to you at the end of this week. And if you have any questions for me, let's talk about them now. If you would like any more information about the workshops that I offer one-to-one exec coaching, and I also offer high-performance team programs and workshops there too. So if you want any more of that information, please just reach out to me and we can talk about that. So let's open up for some questions quickly.